Okay, the recording has started. It's 7 o'clock. And you've got control now, right, Dr. Lamb?
I do.
Okay. We've got, counting, I don't know if Dr. Hamilton's with us or not, but we've got at least 40 students joining tonight. And there'll be, that's good. And we've got a few others that have emailed me that they'll join in just a few minutes, but they had a meeting at school, and they'll join us as soon as they get out of that meeting. But Dr. Lamb, if I may, I'd just like to begin by telling all 4 classes that we are extremely proud of their work ethics this week. Every student in every class has submitted all assignments on schedule. They have been graded. Feedback's been given. Many of you have already been given the okay to move forward. Some of you, it's just some minor cleanup, and when you submit it back to Blackboard this week, I'm going to give you the go-ahead with that, and we're going to talk about that process tonight. What do you do? Others, if there was more involved, you need to make sure that you get it cleaned up as quickly as possible, get it back to me. But overall, Dr. Lamb and I have taught. We are extremely proud of all 4 groups. You've done a great job in a very short time, a quick turnaround. Dr. Lamb, I've got several things on here, but I'll let you start, and then at what
point, back over to you.
You just let me know, and because I'm going to need you on that end to pull up some things anyway.
All right. Welcome tonight. I will amplify Dr. Stedman's comments that we are most pleased and proud. To that end, I have now added your intern shell. As you know, you can go into your class shell and upload your work for review from your peers and from your instructor. In your Blackboard shell under My Courses, you won't have obviously as many as me. You will now have a new shell that popped up next to your Mel 601, whatever section you're in shell, and it will say either Mel's Clinical Internship -Lamb or -Hamilton. And when you click on that, it should be there now because I populated them last night. I was given the okay, drop ad finally closed yesterday, and I was given the okay last night, so I went ahead. There is a delay between 6 and 12 hours, so I made sure I got them in last night, so you should be able to go in tonight. And so when you click on that intern shell, it's going to look just like your class shell. And so it's got intern shell directions. That's where you will start. And the directions are very simple. You've got two areas in here to put your work. One of them is AppSell tasks for review and AppTel tasks for review that you will use this semester, and then the others that you will use in subsequent semesters. You will stay with this person unless we rotate, but you will stay in your shell throughout the course of your program. And it's just what it says. You click on AppSell task for review, and there's a place for you to upload your tasks for your coach to review them one last time before they're done, and then you move on to the next one. And then when you put them all together just prior to going to TaskStream, there's a drop box for you to put them in for a grade for your internship. So you will have, once you have completed each of these, and you think they're good enough for TaskStream, you'll click on the evaluation drop box and you'll drop that task in there, and then you'll move on to the next ones. And then when you get them all completed for the AppSell, there are 5 tasks, and you put them all together and you think they're ready to go, or we think they're ready to go to TaskStream for evaluate for state grading, one last time you will drop them in this box here. Now what this is turn it in. It's a function that checks for originality of your work. This one, there is no penalty. Will allow you to fix it. Say you didn't cite something properly, or if there's too much of it looks like came from somebody else, it will tell us that. There is no penalty here. You will be able to go in and fix whatever is wrong before it goes to task stream. Now, once you upload work in task stream for state grading, if it comes up in the red that there's too many things not cited and it looks like plagiarism, there will be a problem. So we give you one time here with no penalty to go in and check your work, and it'll help you get your work adjusted according to APA citations. And usually it's not that somebody stole somebody else's work. It's just they didn't do their citations properly. And so it will help you to correct that problem. But this is what your internship shelf is for. See, right now, if you're in Dr. Stedman's class, I can't view your work to give you my feedback on it. And if you're in my class or the other one of Dr. Stedman's, Dr. Hamilton can't see it. And we're kind of the quality control before it goes to task stream kind of thing. We don't want work going to task stream that's not ready, or if it's got a problem with citations. We don't want the state graders to kick that work back to us. And I told you to begin with, we've never had a problem because we have a plan. And this is part of that plan is that your work gets triple checked before it goes in to make sure it's complete, it's quality, and that there's no problem with your citations or references. We offer that function to you. So we're serious about this work being quality work. Not only are we pleased that you have done your work in a timely manner, we're very pleased with the quality of that work. I don't foresee any problems with it sailing right through the coach the process, but that this one last look from your coach is what differentiates us and makes sure that our work is the best and that there's no problem with citations. And that's why I said we've never had a problem with state grading, but we plan for that. It's not by accident that our students sail through their state licensure, because we have a process that we put you through. I know that we're beating on you kind of hard right now and demanding a lot of you, but you're in an accelerated program, and that's what it's going to take to get through with the quality of work that it's going to take to pass. Some places, some schools, some programs allow you 5 semesters to do this. We offer you the opportunity to get it done in 3. Saves a lot of time and money, but the work still has to be correct, and it has to be rigorous. And so that's what this shell is for. So not only can you upload your work in your class shell for your peers to review it and for your instructor to give it a look, you can then upload it for us, for Dr. Hamilton and I, to give it a look before it goes. Since we're full-time faculty, we put a final set of eyes on it before it goes for state grading. Anybody have any questions? Let me see what we got questions for in terms of your internship shell.
Dr. Lamb, they need to understand that that it's either you or Dr. Hamilton as their clinical coach too that will be the other person other than me that looks at their work at this point. But once it goes to task stream, that there is an outside evaluator that they will say it's ready for the state, or either they'll send it back at the end. That's the whole purpose in Dr. Lamb and Dr. Hamilton looking at it past me, because with me looking at everything, I'm going to miss something sometime, but they're another set of eyes to look at it before it actually goes in for to determine whether it's good enough to go to the state.
All right, so we can talk. That's the answer to the first questions. We will talk about that. And the answer to the second question is yes, you will upload in both places. We don't want the outside evaluators who are separate from the program, the state graders. We do not want them to send work back. They will give you that option one time to send it back, but we're trying to preclude that from happening. There's 2 reasons why. One, that's not good when the state evaluators, the outside evaluators, have to send it back. But number 2, that's going to slow you down anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. Let me say that again. If your work is sent back for revision in task stream by the state graders, that's going to cost you from 2 to 4 weeks. And that's going to put a serious time crunch on you to get your work done and stay on course to graduate or to finish this program in 3 semesters. If very many things come back for evaluation, you're looking at another semester. So that's why we're doing this up front. It not only assures the quality and integrity of the work, but it also keeps you on pace. The state evaluator has we like for them to get back to you in 2 days, but it may be 3 days before you even know that your work has been returned, and then you have to adjust it, and then it has to go back to them, and it may be 3 more days, and whatever time that it took you to adjust the work. So we're talking a week minimum. Sometimes it's 2 weeks before we get that done. Before we get you squared away, and you can't proceed until you get that work done. So we don't want to get into that work sent back for revision. That's Dante's 7th ring of hell. You don't want to get in that. You can't get out. So that's what we're trying to do, is preclude you from getting into that. Let me close my door. The custodians are coming in. All right. We can put it in our mail 601 shells as many times as we like, and put it in the clinic for an additional review. Yes, you can. And you can, and I have made the boxes in the clinical internship shell as many times as you need to get it in there as well to get it right before we move on. See, at some point you'll begin to understand that you're trying to put the final version on some tasks while you're doing rough drafts of the next one. You can't just sit and wait for those drafts, to get finalized. You've got to be working forward on the next one. And then if we get the monkey wrench thrown in of sent back for revision, the whole process crashes. We can catch you up. We can get you going again. But, there's a time-space continuum. There's only so many weeks in the semester. And if you get far behind on work sent back for revision, you're planning on you'll be with me in 699, which means you finished your coursework but didn't finish your portfolio. We do have a process for that, but you'd rather skip that process if you can. All right. Let me see. So that's the intern shell. Again, you'll find it under my courses. That's a direct link to me and to Dr. Hamilton. Again, you will upload your work for our review, and then once we tell you it looks good, you'll drop it in for evaluation. We'll give you the score that we think that you will make from the state graders, and then you will move on to the next task until you have them all done, and they're all evaluated with us, and then you will put them all together and drop them in one more time for one final check and turn it in to make sure that that all your references are done correctly and that there's been no work duplicated from somewhere else. There's not going to be an issue with plagiarism. When we tell you that's good, it goes to task stream, then you will go straight to task stream and drop it in for the state evaluation, the outside evaluation. It's a little cumbersome, the process, I agree, but it works. It keeps people on track and keeps there's no questions about the integrity of our work coming out of Gardner-Webb. Dr. Stedman, that covers the intern shell. What would you like for me to do next?
Okay, first of all, the 08 group, that they need to understand that I now have full access to the work that they will be submitting, and Dr. Lamb may go in there, but for the most part, I will be the one that will be looking at the work that is submitted by Sunday night, earlier if possible, but by Sunday night. That will be through me, and he will take on the clinical coach capacity of things now. So I will be the one that will be looking at that work. Dr. Lamb, let's talk about task 1 briefly, because you commented on those in 08. I didn't get a chance to comment on those, but I just need to make sure that we're consistent with all four groups at this point. Many of your work is ready. It should be ready to go into the final, but what I'd like for you to do, Dr. Lamb, so I can be consistent and know, before it goes to the APSO assignment Dropbox, if it has not been done yet, and I don't think that has been done yet, I want every one of them to send it back to me in discussion board for me to say submit to the Apsel assignment Dropbox so that I can be consistent with everybody and know what's going on. Is that okay with you?
Well, if you go to, before we do that, if you go to, if you go to
Okay, where
discussion board for task under
right.
the OH shell,
Right.
and you click there on that,
Okay.
you can look at everything that's been submitted.
Okay.
You can
Well,
review it again.
okay.
Now,
Okay. Got you. Did you tell? And I just need to ask.
see, these have come in today.
Did you tell some of them to go ahead and submit to the assignment Dropbox for the Apsel? Have you given anybody permission? Okay. Well, then this will work. They're going to put it back in discussion board this week because it's for me, and then I will be able to tell them submit to the Apsel assignment Dropbox. Can you show them? Can you, if you're in the that shell, can you go to the Apsel assignment Dropbox and show them when I tell them that it's ready to go in there where they put that?
Okay.
Many of them are going to be submitting it to me well before Sunday night because you're ready already. Anybody can send it to me from this point on if it's ready for me to look at and tell you that it's ready to drop. Now,
All right, so I have a question here. Do we upload peer review feedback to the draft discussion board? Yes, you attach it to the thread where you got it. When a student uploads their work in discussion board for peer review, and you go and get it from them at that peer review, you go back to that same place and upload the review in the same place where you got the document to review. So, so Dr. Stedman, you don't want to just go in and look at each one of these individually,
I can do that. Yes, I can do that.
And then you can tell them whether it's ready to put in discussion board.
I can do that. But now some of the students that are in the other three groups, I told them to send some things back to me to look at because there were some revisions they had to make before. So they know who they are and they just need to send it to me. Yeah. But that's what I can do there.
So you can see, if you see my screen, you can see that this person went back to the same place. Okay. This Jen Mason, Jen went back to the same place where she picked up Amanda Wilson's draft. She reviewed it, and then she uploaded the review of it in the very same thread where she picked it up to review to begin with. This is the place that you communicate with one another as students. You do that in the discussion board for tasks. You put your work there, you pick up somebody else's there, and you attach the review to the same place where you picked it up to begin with, where you downloaded their document to review. You put the review back in the same thread in the same place. But
and that is for the student. That's so that the student can see your feedback to them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Dr. Lamb, go to the side and go to assignment Dropbox.
All right, let me.
And that was getting a little bit ahead, but since the question came up, it's important to know that.
All right. So go to assignment Dropbox. All right.
Go to assignment Dropbox. Okay, come on down. Come on down. Okay. Okay. Right there. Apsel Task 1. Peer Review 2. Okay, those same documents that you put in discussion board to let your peers see what they've done, you're going to take those same two documents and you're going to put them here for me to give you a grade that you have completed that task. Do you see that? Dr. Lamb, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that they see, do you see where I'm talking about? Those same peer reviews that you do for the APSL Task 1 with two of your peers, you're going to put it in, discussion board for them to see what you've had to say about, but those same two documents are going to be placed in here for me, and this is where your grade comes from, that you have completed that task. Is that correct, Dr. Lamb?
That's correct. All right, I've got some questions here.
Okay.
Okay.
And the reason we're saying this, some of you, there's people at different places, and they're just ready to go on and do this. It's holding them back.
The question is, where do I see your feedback on our task 1 draft? You see my feedback or Dr. Stedman's. You see my feedback in the internship shell. You see his feedback in your class shell under discussion board. He gives feedback there just like any other student. And so, but then he will give you a grade when you put it, and may give you private feedback in discussion. When you drop it into the assignment Dropbox, that's private between you and him. He will give you public comments just like anybody else in discussion board. But we've set these up. The assignment Dropbox is private. It's only between the instructor and the student. Peer review is anybody can read it.
But Dr. Lamb, pretty much once it goes there, if they followed directions, even in the assignment in the discussion board, then they're pretty much, by the time it gets to this point, it's ready for a final submission if they followed our directions.
Yep. Somebody asked, what does the peer review document look like? Go to peer review templates. And that's...
Okay, no, up at the top.
Yeah, it
said you have to click on that top when I went to the forms.
I'm trying to move things out of the way here so I can do that. You can see
Yeah.
it, but I can't.
Yeah.
All right. I got to move stuff. There it goes. This is what it looks like right here as soon as it resizes itself here. Come on, there it goes. This is what the peer review form looks like. So when you download somebody's work to peer review, you simply you download you one of these forms, you put your feedback in there, and then you save it. And then once you save it, you upload it again back in where you picked it up from. Very simple process. And then you don't have any feedback for my draft in the discussion board from Dr. Stedman. Probably he hadn't picked it up yet.
Yeah, every student that has if they have turned in the app, so everybody has turned it in. There was feedback for every student. I worked 8 hours on that Sunday, so every student did get feedback.
All right.
But
in terms of mine, the only students that haven't gotten feedback in the OHL from me, and Dr. Stedman has just gotten access to that. The only students who did not have feedback are those who submitted or put peer reviews in while I was going to dinner tonight.
Okay.
Everybody else, let me go to my discussion board for tasks here, and I'll show you that. As you can see, I've had 46 posts in week 1 for contact, and I've read them all. The drafts, there were 5 things that came in while I was from about 4 o'clock this afternoon till about 6:30 when I was in the meeting and gone to dinner. But other than that, and I'll guarantee you those came in late. Let's look at those. So this one came in. This one came in at 4:27 p.m. I left the office at 4 o'clock. So this one came in, but if you've submitted any time up to 4 o'clock today in the OHL, I've already commented on it. And so here's what a final peer review. So so Jody went in and downloaded Amanda's, and she reviewed it. And this is what the review, again, these are public. So I'm not letting the cat out of the bag here. I got to move things out of the way again to open these things up. And so there's what it looks like. And so that's exactly what she did. She just put her comments over there in the feedback box and gave her some comments. I saw one today that had specific by line comments. I thought, boy, that was a really good one. I wish I remembered the name so I could praise that person publicly. But yes, so this was an excellent job. And so what I will do then is I will go back and tell that person, I'll reply. And under that same thread, my reply will be a post, and I will say excellent. And so now again, Dr. Stedman's going to take this function over after tonight, and he'll be the one commenting. I'll be the one commenting in your internship shell, me or Dr. Hamilton. He will be, so I'll go back to this one. So he will go back. Dr. Stedman will be able to go back and look at all of your work because it's already there. And I reviewed it all except for what came in late today. So Kelly, let's see what Kelly did. Here's my updated one. It came in this afternoon late. And so he'll go in and read that one, and just like he'll read them again, whether they're the first time or whether they've been read before or not. He'll go in and read those and tell you if they're ready for Dropbox. But all he has to do is click on discussion board for task, and then click on week 2 here, and then click on the student's name, or excuse me, click on the thread.
The thread.
And it'll take him right back to the work. Like this one's already been read, but if he clicks on it, it'll take it right back to the work. And there it is right there. It'll be the first one in the thread. And when he opens that one, come on, you can do it. There it goes. It's just a little slow when you're working through Zoom. And there it will be. And he'll be able to read your work and comment as well if it's ready to go. I did not tell anybody their work was ready to go. I simply told them if they didn't have their appendices. I also told some that looked very final form. I told them continue with the peer review process, but go ahead and start looking at a draft of task 2.
Right.
But I did not give anybody the go ahead to put them in assignment Dropbox because I was waiting on you, Dr. Stedman.
Okay. And I wanted to make sure before I moved forward and didn't confuse anybody. Okay, that's good.
Yeah. Now, it's not that we're not planned and prepared. This function is not available until after drop add. That's why we're just now getting to it. Drop add was yesterday.
Well, the weather was the reason why things are behind schedule on that, but we've caught up, and they've done a great job dealing with.
They've done a great job. Drop add was a few days late. They extended drop add because of the weather. And so now that I got the go-ahead at 3 p.m. yesterday afternoon, the drop add was over. They gave Dr. Stedman access to the shell. I was given access to the database to load your intern shells, and so I have to load those individually by hand. I did that last night and early this morning, and so that we would have those tonight. So we're on schedule still. We would have liked to have had the drop boxes set up a week earlier like this, but that's fine. It hadn't slowed your work down, and that's all that matters. And so he will review your work tonight or tomorrow and tell you if it's ready to go or what needs to be fixed on it.
Okay, Dr. Lamb, while we're talking, let's go ahead and talk to them about the decision that we made about them commenting on students' work in Blackboard's discussion board. We said that we would, I mean, they can do it if they want to, but we're not going to make that a requirement since they are doing the peer reviews. It's really a little redundant. The peer review form is what we're mainly looking for. So if you put something out there and you want to comment on somebody in your groups in Blackboard, but that's not what I'm looking for. I'm going to look for the peer review process in those forms. That's what I'm going to look for.
Okay, so the question is on the board here, how many peer reviews do we have to do? You have to peer review two tasks. You have to do peer review of 2 tasks. We're not interested in you commenting on somebody else's I'm just interested that you do 2 peer reviews of every task of somebody else on your team. Do 2 peer reviews. More comments other than that is just kind of redundant and takes too much time.
I'd rather you spend your time doing quality work on the other tasks that you've got to do.
Yeah, so when we get the questions, do we have to comment on everybody's post? No, you don't have to comment on everybody's post. When should the Zoom peer reviews recording take place? This week? Yeah, that'd be a good idea. Get started this week on your Zoom peer reviews. I looked under my grades, found the assignment, clicked the blue speech bubble. My feedback is telling me to put my educational leadership philosophy in the correct spot. I don't see you can't find feedback. You won't find feedback in my grades. You go back to your thread in discussion board to see feedback, or you go to if you're looking for feedback. So,
Dr. Lamb, let me. I don't know what they're looking for, but in all 4 classes, the draft of the Absol Task 1, everybody's cleared with that, with their philosophy of education. Educational leadership, every student has been cleared in that OA group and the 3 groups I had. Everybody has been cleared. So I don't know what they're looking for, because every student that submitted, I commented and you did as well, or you put a grade in there.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's clear. There's not one student that we have that is not completely cleared up to this point.
Yep. So if there's no written feedback or comment, we're okay. Yes. When we grade stuff, I might put excellent, but we're not going to give comments on stuff that we grade. We give comments in discussion board. There was no wrong answer for the philosophy of education paper. We just wanted to read kind of where you are and what you're thinking early on in the program, and can you use the equipment properly. And so we didn't really write you a detailed. I wrote some notes back to people that I agreed with, or I liked one that talks a lot about empowering teachers as a leader. I like that one. I might put a comment on that one, but no, we don't normally comment on graded assignments other than maybe say excellent. You get detailed feedback from things you put in discussion board. That's the way the program is designed. So if there's no written feedback, you're okay. Are the Zoom peer reviews simply a restatement of the peer review template that we have? Well, yes, you start with that, and you might, when you do a Zoom peer review, you share your review orally with the person. So the value in that is it's sometimes easy to kind of sit behind the computer screen and write things. It's a different story when you have to tell a person face to face what you think of their work. This is a lesson in virtual collaboration. Virtual collaboration is the buzz now in most of all corporate America, and even other organizations, is virtual collaboration, because many companies and many organizations are now multi-site and even global. You have to be able to collaborate virtually. And so it's different than just writing something down and sending it to somebody or firing off an email. And you have to look them in the face and talk with them. That's a different skill set. And so, yes, so what you do is you write out your peer review just like you would and upload it into Blackboard. But then when you do your Zoom review groups, you have to read that and be able to answer any questions and defend your position with your peers that you're reviewing. That's a whole nother skill set we're trying to develop. It's called virtual collaboration.
And Dr. Lamb, they also need to know too that this is a practice, an administrative practice, because as an assistant principal, and many of you that's going to be your first job, most of you will move into that, you will be evaluating teachers. This is a great skill in being able to candidly sit down with teachers and talk with them about what you see when you go into a classroom. So this is this skill or this activity, there's a lot of skills that you will learn from this.
So the question is should I be collaborating with 2 people I'm reviewing or the entire team? The entire team. You should have your team together. to virtually collaborate. You take turns, reading your reviews of one another's work.
No, Gretchen, yes. Do it. 1 and 2 goes together. That's
Yeah.
one Zoom for both of them.
Mm-hmm.
First time.
Yep. Yep. And so there is value in the content of your review, but there's also value in the process of the review. In terms of the virtual collaboration. I mean, that's what we're not going to make you do it every time. I think we've got, 4 planned this semester, Dr. Stedman? And we may even look at that later on in terms of.
Yeah, there's probably more planned than what they'll end up having to do if we see quality, as we need to see it, from the beginning, and then over the next few, we can make some changes down the road. But at this point, we've got them in there for us to use if we need to. Somebody asked the question, Zoom this week or next week. If you're ready to Zoom this week, you don't have to wait till next week. Don't put things off. We've got it built into a schedule so that we can keep you on a schedule. But work smart as you can. If you're ready, if your group's ready, then you push them and you go on and get things done as you can.
Yeah. Don't wait. If I would at least be scheduling them this week, and you say, well, how far along are we on our task 2? You need to start task 2 here pretty quickly.
Tamara, that is correct. So you need to be communicating with your group and make sure everybody is ready, and put people. Your group can work together and you can collaborate. Again, it goes back to that virtual collaboration. You can collaborate on a time when everybody should be through, and your group makes that decision. And your group will work towards making sure that everything, and this really is going to help each other out, because sometimes when you have a tendency to put things off, if you know that you've got a collaborative meeting coming up, it's going to make you go ahead and get your work done.
Yeah. But, you should be moving toward scheduling your Zoom maybe for next week or later this week, whenever everybody gets their rough draft of task 2 ready and gets it posted. But you don't have to wait. If you can go. We won't give you extra to do if you get through early. You have your set amount to do. But when the weather breaks and you get some vacation time, when you get your spring break, and then a little bit later on when you get your Easter break, you'd like to be able to take some of that time to make up with your family that you've been missing doing all this work. But if you're stressed and still on deadline and not where you need to be, what we're hoping is that at least the Easter week you'll get to take a week off so that you won't go brain dead on us. And so, the harder you push now during the doldrums of winter, when there's not really a lot that you can do outside and it's dark, right after lunchtime, that when the weather breaks on later on, you'll have a little me time or a little time with your family. Because that's important to build balance in your life. And so, some people have this notion that if we go fast and get this done, they'll give us more to do. No, we won't give you more to do.
That's it. Dr. Lamb, Jeannie asked a question, was there any harm in going ahead and doing a Zoom session with task 1 only? Your group can do what they want to do. We're only looking, you will have to submit Zoom 1 and 2 together, but if you want to practice, and your group can decide to do on anything. If you want a practice session and look at things, that's left up to your group.
Yeah, you don't even have to share that with us if you don't want to.
No.
But that's a great idea to go ahead and practice on Zoom 1. On task 1 for a Zoom. We had groups last semester that did that. They said, well, we're itching to get started on this and see how it goes, kind of a trial run before we have to record one and upload it for the world to see on YouTube. Now, that you're going to record these and you're going to upload them on YouTube, and then you're going to send everybody the link. And so,
So if there's 5 people in a group, I'm going to know who's in that group. When the first person sends it, I'm going to look at that one, but I don't have to look at it 5 times, because the other 4 will have the same link, but you have to send it to me to show that you have participated and you were part of that group. So you'll send the same link to me. but I'm only going to look at it one time, but I'll comment on
We
yours.
won't watch it 5 times though.
Yes.
We'll just, but if it were me, I'd practice one time.
I would too, yes.
And I would practice one time before I went live for the world. Now, some people just randomly click on these videos; they find them. You never know how many views you're going to get. This one is out there for the world to see as well. So you might want to think about that at some point. So a little practice won't hurt you.
Dr. Lamb, if we could, let's talk about, if you'll pull up the task 2 of the APSL, and let's review with them prompt 1 and prompt 2, what is due for review this weekend, or what has to be submitted to Blackboard discussion board this weekend.
All right. Can y'all see the scale handbook on the screen?
Yes.
Excellent. All right, here we go.
And most of you were with me the other week when I was by myself, and I talked to you about this, making this flow like a story, like a book, and your task 1, you've completed it. That was the first part of that story. So remember, I told you to make sure that this document flowed, because when you complete all 5 tasks of the APSL, you've got to put this together into one document, and it must flow. I talked to you about making sure from task 1 to task 2 that even there that you may have a little transition paragraph introducing chapter 2 that leads right into it. So just make sure your document flows, because it all tells a story from beginning to the end, all 5 of the tasks that you're doing. Okay, look at prompt 1 of task 2. Candidates will describe, and again, that tells you what you're going to do. You're going to write about. There's more narrative, and you're going to evidence data collection strategies and criteria and the process of identifying the most pressing need. Now, many of you in your task 1, you went ahead and talked about that pressing need, but you're going to commit to that pressing need in task 2. And this is where you're going to talk about it. The candidate will lead a collaborative meeting where data is analyzed and discussed, concluding with agreement and a specific need. And you're going to, one of the students I met with this week, one of the interns that I visited with, I said, you're looking at it globally, and it starts out big at the top, and now you're bringing it down to the funnel shape at the bottom. And at the very bottom, that's where you're going to identify that pressing need. But you're going to talk about other needs, and how did you get to that point. You're going to lead that meeting. And then prompt 2, you're going to show what you talked about, and this is where you're going to show actually the data that you disaggregated. You're going to talk demographics. If you're talking about subgroups, anything that will help us see and understand that story better goes into prompt 2. Dr. Lamb, any comments on that?
No, just you got a lot of times these charts, tables, and graphs are included
exactly
in the data that you analyze. I mean,
and
if it's
just you copy and paste,
you copy and paste that thing, or you can create a table using the insert format from Microsoft Word. You can create a table. You can do charts and graphs. But it should be graphically represented so that when somebody sees it, they say, oh, that's why you picked that as the most important thing we need to work on. You shouldn't just have to tell us, you will, but you should graphically display that. That's the way that we communicate data now, is through charts, tables, and graphs, because it's a visual, and people that can't calculate numbers in their head can see it represented on paper. That's the big piece of this, is make sure there's a graphic representation of, this group is this much lower than that group, and you've got it charted out. Oh, we can see why you picked that group, but that needs to be worked on. And again, let me remind you, your most pressing need should be something that something from a validated measure, a state test, something hopefully from the state report card that matters in your school. It can't be something esoteric or that you design or you think is important. It should be from some standardized score that's reported about your school to the public.
And again, go back. You don't have to go back. Refer to the template that Dr. Lamb has provided in Blackboard. Again, there's a template that will help you map this out. It'll show you some things. So the template is still important with that. And again, after you complete prompt 2, if you've done any referencing, you have to do a reference section there. If you have an appendix section as well, you'll put your appendices at the end. Now, I talked with some students this week, and I said, you're going to do that for each of the tasks, but then at the end, when we get through task 5, you're going to go back and you will combine all of your appendices will go to at the end of this whole document when you get through, and your reference section will be moved from the single documents to the, and we'll talk about that later on. But you build it as you go, as you go along with task 1, task 2, and then task 3. Okay, and again with this, your meeting minutes, those are artifacts that you will add to that as well. Your agendas, anything that you do, if you are presenting either a video or a picture of you presenting, continue to add those as in your appendix section.
All right, let me speak to. Okay, here comes another question. It may be part of what I'm asking here. I'm using in-class data and have school-wide administrative access. The data that I'm using is not public data. Should it be? No. No, if it's got students' names, it's not supposed to be public. Group data can be shared. But I know what you're talking about with M-Class. As long as there's no names on it and it's just by group, you're okay. Now, let me speak to appendices and references. I'll get to the template in just a minute. If you have taken and pulled data out of a source that's a bigger piece of data, that data can either be, if it's something like a website or a state report card or something like that, you can put that under your reference section, that link. Or if it's a document that you pulled it from, the entire document should be in your appendices. Let me say that again. If it's a document that you pull something out of, that document should be in your appendices. If it's a website or something like that, that link to that should be in your references. Again, we want to make sure that we cite things properly and that we credit other people's work and that we don't look as if it's our work. We want to make sure that we have used the proper format in terms of references and appendices. For example, in task 1, that email permission from your principal, the agenda, and the minutes from your PLC meetings, those are all appendices. They should be attached after your references.
Dr. Lamb, also when you, from this point on, because that probably was the one thing that you and I both had to comment back to the students to make sure they add, unless you just, make sure you do that when you submit your assignment to discussion board. Go ahead and add those things there so that we don't have to keep reminding you to do that.
Yeah, they should be built into your document. They're important parts. We don't ever want to make it appear that we are that we're taking credit for somebody else's work. All right. So somebody said, can I speak to the highlighted areas of the template?
Yeah,
let me go to the template quickly.
Yeah, they had sent me a question, and I told them to wait until tonight, and we would look at that.
Okay. Let me move this out of the way. Highlighted areas, add your text here. So where it says school profile, I expect to see your school profile. And that tells me about your internal and external context, where your community is, population of your community, the median income, those kinds of things. Your school context would be about where your school is, its historical context, maybe even something about grades and scores there. But every time you see yellow, that means I'm supposed to put something here. And I've even given you some hints early on in these where it says PL. I tell you, this is what your research should be, your selection, and your meeting. So where the yellow is, data collection strategies. How did you go about collecting your data? What criteria and process did you put in place for identifying your most pressing need? Did you just go eeny, meeny, miny, mo, or did we decide, what is more important, math or reading? Well, what did our school improvement say that our emphasis was this year? Well, it was reading. So obviously reading, we're going to be looking for reading. Collaborative data analysis, this is the data that we looked at. That's how we did it. We had it all on paper, or I had it on an overhead. How did we do that? And then most pressing need. How did I pick my most pressing need?
Dr. Lamb, go back. Again, use this when you are actually writing task 2 and you're doing prop 1, actually write in data collection strategies and then tell us about it. Then come on down, write criterion process for identifying the most pressing need. Then write about it. Use these as your headings, your topics, and then you know that you have done everything you need to do when you've done that.
All right. Is a video of our PLC session mandatory? It says it in one place and optional in another. I don't know that it says anywhere that it's mandatory. We would prefer that either a video or a picture of your meeting, one or the other, as that. Now, the question it says so in the syllabus, I believe.
Yeah, that was an oversight if it was in the syllabus, Dr. Lamb.
I don't know. I didn't do that. Would be you.
Yeah.
But no, we want one. We want a picture or a video. We would prefer to have one of those. And then again, if it's a video, we want the link. We don't want the video. We want the link to the video. And then could video of the PLC meetings be portion meetings so it's not so long? Absolutely, that'd be fine. But it won't. If you record it and upload it, I mean, you're not gonna put the video in Blackboard. You're only gonna put the link to the YouTube video in Blackboard. You can't put much of a video in Blackboard. Sometimes it won't even let you upload them at all. And we're not going to go through the process of teaching you Kaltura so that you can convert them and upload them in Blackboard. We're not going to do that. We're just going to use YouTube and links. And so for that purposes, the link is immaterial. But if you just want to record a segment of it, but we would like a video if possible, or a picture will suffice. Most people just do a picture. They take their cell phone, take a picture. And that's fine. And you can upload a picture, a PNG, a JPEG, or a PNG screenshot. Some people record it on their video, turn their video on their computer, and then just do a screenshot. You know how to do a screenshot. Press the Windows key and print screen and just screenshot it. You can screenshot a video picture that way. I'm sorry, I feel a little confused about different parts of the prompt 1. Because they seem to all go together. I don't understand that. They don't all go together. Data collection strategies is how'd you come up with this data? Second one, process for identifying them. Then you figured out what in the data was important, and then how'd you go about analyzing that data, and then how'd you determine the most pressing need? Those are 4 completely separate kind of things. You may do them all at one time, but whether you realize it or not, you're making 4 separate decisions here. And that's what we're trying to get you to understand. What was the process? It didn't, what are the individual steps? You need to know which steps you're in at what time. Your process will determine your outcome, is what we're trying to train you here.
Right.
And so if you don't follow these, if you just come in and start talking about your most pressing need without seeing your data or deciding what's important first, then you've chosen your most pressing need based on what you think rather than what the data tells you. You should go in this order: data collection. How are we going to go collect our data? Are we going to go to the state report card? Where are we going to get our data from? And then once we've got our data, before we even start looking at our data, we need to determine what our process is going to be for most pressing need. Is it going to be biggest gap, largest group? Is it going to be math or reading or science based on our school improvement team, our school improvement plan? We need to know that before we even look, after we get our data, before we even look at it, we need to decide, all right, how are we going to determine this? You need to have a plan in place. And then how did you sit down and collaboratively analyze the data once you knew what you were looking for and what your priorities were? And then how did you determine, did you take a vote? Did you all come to an agreement? Was there conflict? One group wanted to work on this and one part of the group wanted to work on that. What was the process? Was it democratic? Did you vote? Did the leader say, I'm going to make the decision? What process led you to saying, doggone it, this is the thing we need to work on this year? It needs to go in that order. You get your data first, then you say, all right, once we've got our data, before we even analyze our data, what's important? Have we looked at our school improvement plan? What are the initiatives for our school this year? Are we going to look at subgroups? Are we going to look at grade levels? Are we going to look at individual subject areas? What are we going to look at before we look at it? Because once you start looking, you get confused. You need to have your process defined before you start. Then you sit down as a group and look at your data. And then as a group, you decide, all right, this is what we need to work on this year. It should be in that order, that way. Those are 4 separate and distinct activities, and they must be done in that order. This is when we talk about data-based decision-making. This is the process for data-based decision-making. This is not random. This is textbook how you do data-based decision-making. Too many times we make decisions because we had data and we call it data-based decision-making, but in fact, we'd already decided before we walked in the room what we were going to do. That's not data-based decision-making. This process is, and that's what we're trying to teach you to do, is truly do data-based decision-making and not just pay lip service to it because there was some data circling around the room. That happens way too many times in our business.
Dr. Lamb, 2 questions came up. Yes, Pam, you double spaced your documents throughout, all of you, and so that's important. Data presentation, prompt 2. The data presentation is a graphic representation, as it said, of forms, charts, tables, and graphs. But remember, if you put a chart there, a table there, a graph there, there needs to be a narrative underneath it, 2 or 3 sentences that tells us what we're looking at.
What direct our eyes to what we should be looking for. Hopefully we'll figure it out, but in APA format, we call all tables, charts, and tables figures. And in APA format, again, as Dr. Stedman said, right underneath it, you're supposed to tell us what's key in that figure, what we're supposed to be looking at, what's important about that. So Janelle, I wish you could say this to everybody. Yes, right now you should be working on task 2 while revising task 1. You're always going to be in that mode, always in this program, where you're revising one while you're working on the rough draft of the next one. If you wait till it's completely done before you start the next one, you'll be as old as I am before you finish this program. You'll get to draw your Social Security.
Yes, Lynette, only do peer reviews for people in your Zoom group.
Dr. Stedman and I are going to be old enough to get our Social Security later this year. You don't want to be as old as us when you get through. So, once you catch the rhythm of this, you'll understand that it actually keeps you moving and keeps the flow going. Once you kind of catch the rhythm. All right, let's see.
Dr. Dr. Lamb, just a reminder to all of you, make sure, again, and we've provided several resources, make sure you are following APA format. The biggest thing is within your text, make sure that you're doing proper APA citations within the text, and then your reference section, make sure that that is correct. Those are two things that you really need to look at.
Can we name the chart and reference it in the prompt one narrative? Absolutely, you should do that. Okay, Zoom Teams. Dr. Stedman is going to work on those. So after tonight's session, we don't want to take up, our time is actually already up. Yeah. Dr. Stedman will work with the 08 group because he now has access to you. He will work with you to help you with your teams if you don't have enough people in your teams. He's committed to doing that. I have held off on doing that until he came, he had functionality in Blackboard so that he could work with that, so that he could put those teams together and know who they are or help you with those. So if you don't have at least 2 people on your team, email Dr. Stedman and let him know, and he can adjust those teams in the 08 section. And that goes for the 2 section, the 4 section, and the 10 section. All 4 that we work with. If you don't have enough folks in your group, at least 3, get in touch with Dr. Stedman and he'll work on those. I'll
look at that tonight, Dr. Lamb, and I'll take care of that. Can you answer Jason's question before we close out?
Let's see. I don't see Jason's question.
Jason, he talked about collaborative data analysis. Just tell them again what we're talking about.
Well, when you do collaborative data analysis is you sit down in a group and you all look at the same thing at the same time. You might have it on one sheet of paper, but everybody's looking at the same sheet of paper at one time. You know, the mistake that you can make in data analysis is I'm looking at page 3 and Dr. Stedman's looking at page 9 and somebody else is looking at their phone, and then we don't have a context. We should be all on the same page at the same time. If we truly do collaborative data analysis, we're all looking and talking and adjudicating the same thing at the same time. And we look at it together. We don't assign different parts of it and then come back together, because then it's just a big argument. The way to truly do collaboration is that we're all looking at the same piece of data and evaluating it at the same and discussing it at the same time. It's a group activity. It's collaborative data analysis. That's key in this process now, because if you do it that way, you won't have as many fist fights when you get down to deciding what your most pressing need is, because everybody has pretty much agreed and the terms and conditions are pretty much the same. And so that doesn't preclude that there won't be conflict when it comes to deciding what most pressing need is. But if you don't look at the data collaboratively, I'll guarantee you that there'll be conflict later on. So that's one of those things. If you do the work up front, you know, at the end, when you get to deciding your most pressing need and where you're going to go forward from there, it won't be nearly as hard. See, the problem is if everybody doesn't have buy-in on the most pressing need, the next part is trying to determine what we're going to do to fix that problem. We're going to do research, annotated bibliography. We're going to try to find programs, treatments, or fixes that address the kind of problem that we have in our school. Our most pressing need is a problem, and we're going to try to find solutions to that problem. And if everybody's not on board, it's not going to go well in the solution phase. And that's the most important part, is the solution. What are we going to do? We already knew that these scores were low. Everybody knew, because it was on our state report card. It wasn't news to anybody. The important part of this is bringing everybody along, so that when we get to the point where we make our most critical decision, which is what are we going to do about this, everybody's on board at that point, and we're still not fighting over what we ought to be doing, because that's real life, unfortunately. So that collaborative data analysis is key to get everybody on board going into making our decision, because once we make our decision, the next decision that we make, when we start reviewing things that have worked to fix this problem, For example, you say our problem is our reading scores, and the problem is fluency. Well, we do our annotated bibliography, and what we find, and once we all agree on fluency, we figure out pretty quickly that our issue should be phonics. We should be doing something with phonics. And we'll look at different phonics-based programs and pick the one that best suits our school and our population. But, you know, that sounds pretty simple, but that's a lot of work from where I just started that sentence to where I ended it. So the collaboration in the data analysis part will pay dividends when you're trying to figure out, all right, what should we do to fix this problem now? Because we've all agreed on our most pressing need. Everybody saw the same thing. There's no hidden agendas here. All right, going forward, when we do our research, our annotated bibliography of solutions to problems like ours, the one that we pick will be a leg up on picking that one, because that's where the most conflict comes in. See, a lot of folks will come in and say, well, I've seen this work over at this school. I have a friend that teaches here, and they're doing that, and it really works. And then everybody has a different opinion on how to solve the problem. Again, it's a process. This is a process. And please remember, the big picture here, we're trying to teach you how to develop a school improvement plan. And this is the instructional piece. This is the heart of your school improvement plan. And if you will learn to follow this process, when you get out and get your job, and when you get your school as principal, if you will use these techniques that we've taught you, you'll be much more successful in developing plans that actually matter to your students. And you will have much more harmony among your faculty if you will do it this way. These are tried and true techniques from people who did it. Dr. Stedman and I don't know, we have somewhere around 65 years combined education experience, principling and supervising principals. And I'm going to tell you, there's nothing more important than learning the process of how to put a good school improvement plan together. And the instructional piece is the heart of that plan. And so these are not just things that we thought would be fun to do. This is a tried and true process that works. Do we resubmit to the discussion board the revisions for task 1? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was going to answer that question. Yes.
Yes.
That's where I'll tell them to finally submit to the Apsel Dropbox.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep.
Heath Banks has raised his hand. I know that. Okay.
No.
Tamara, that's good, Tamara. Okay.
All righty. Thank you.
I think.
All right.
Dr. Lamb, are you coming on again Thursday night?
I will. I'm going to come on briefly Thursday night at 7, and I want you to go in and make sure that you have an internship shell and that you can go in and look at it. And if you have questions, I'm going to talk to you about your internship shell Thursday night. Now, I'm not promising, but I'm hoping to have a batch download into TaskStream by them as well. And if not, we'll be on next Thursday to talk about TaskStream. About your accounts and setting up your competency folios and all those things. Dr. Hamilton will be joining us when we talk about TaskStream. But you know, remember, TaskStream is for state grading and accreditation. You'll say, well, gosh, we're doing all this stuff in Blackboard. It seems redundant. Blackboard is Gardner-Webb's vehicle to get all this work. TaskStream is for state licensure and national accreditation through CAPE. We don't do comments. We don't put rough drafts. We only put finished products into TaskStream. And so we're not worried about that right now. We're nowhere near needing TaskStream yet. Hopefully we'll have it later this week. If we don't have it later this week, we'll certainly have it before next week. We're not allowed to put folks into TaskStream until after drop add. And so today would have been the first day. So Seth started getting we were still doing roster verification this afternoon. I still had the coaches out on the road visiting people. We had more folks that we found and more folks that were shuffled around today. We have to get the rosters pretty much set before we can do task stream, because every time we commit for one of those licenses, it's a lot of money. So we'll get that. We had everything at 5 o'clock today. We had everything hammered out. So if that holds tomorrow and we don't have anything else that blows up tomorrow in terms of we find students that we'd lost or lost students we thought we'd found that had dropped, the plan is to start batching those in tomorrow afternoon. So hopefully they'll be there for Thursday again. But if we have another crash, if we have another crash in Blackboard, or if we have another snowstorm, we're getting there as quickly as we can. But yeah, I'll come on Thursday night and specifically to talk about any questions you have for the internship shell. So if you don't have,
Dr. Lamb, do you think Thursday night that we need to, and you just let me know, do we need to by then at least look at task 3 briefly for those that might be ready this weekend to start working on that? Or
we can do that. We can do that Thursday night.
Okay, I think by then I'm going to ask them to go ahead, because you've always got to look ahead. Go ahead and just look at it, and then we will just, for those that will be ready, we'll talk about it briefly, and then next Tuesday that will be our main focus, is looking at task 3. But
yeah,
there will be some that will be ready this weekend.
I can introduce it Thursday night. We'll look at
Okay.
the shell and we'll introduce task 3.
Okay, that's what
All
we'll
right.
do. Okay, that's it.
Somebody just blew the whistle on us.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Sharon, for blowing
Thanks,
the whistle.
everybody. Thank you.
All right. Good
Give
night.
it back to me so I can record it, Doctor.
All right. I'm going to do a stop share, and it should record on your end as soon as I close it.
Okay. Good night, everybody.